disappointing to say the least, because obviously after the Lord's Test match, you weren't expecting India to kind of have two kind of terrible days.
The most surprising thing for me was why India batted after winning the toss. You just got a side, run through a side within less than 50 overs.
It was always a bat first pitch, but I understand where Raj is coming from a very psychological point of view, where you've got somebody out cheaply.
But I think as long as Test cricket is strong in Australia, India and in England, which I think it is.
Hello and welcome to another First Class Cricket Academy podcast. As usual, I'm joined by Raj and Darren, but today we have a very special guest today. We have Deep Gupta. How you doing, Deep?
Very good. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Darren, Raj?
Hello again, Ollie.
Yeah, very, very well, especially after a very good win from England, managing to win the Test match by an innings and 76 runs. Deep, I'll come straight to you. You were obviously there commentating for the BBC Test match special. What was that like to watch?
Was disappointing to say the least, because obviously after the Lord's Test match, you weren't expecting India to kind of have two kind of terrible days, disappointing and terrible days. I mean, you can lose a session, you can lose a day, but by margins that India lost, especially the first day, it's very difficult to recover after that. And yes, I mean, credit to England and English bowlers to have bowled as well as they've done right through the series. But especially the first innings, I thought some of those shots were quite disappointing and very uncharacteristic of the experienced Indian side, that is.
Raj, coming to you, what were your thoughts of England's performance as well in that Test series compared to the other Test matches that have happened?
India or England?
Or you can put both together, Raj.
Okay, the first thing, obviously, you must give due credit to England for this game. And the most surprising thing for me was why India batted after winning the toss. You just got a side, run through a side within less than 50 overs a few days ago. And with all due respect, we know that in general, our batting does struggle with the moving ball. So yes, we had a good day at Lord's, but having got England out cheaply on the last day, I didn't know why we batted first. The other thing about England was, the good thing to see was at least they have gone back to people like Malan, Hamid, and where obviously Root is there, then you got Moilani down the line, who are batting properly, and rather than people trying to reinvent the wheel. James Anderson, obviously you can't just talk about him, he's supreme quality. And as Deep mentioned, the England bowlers bowled well. Their use of the crease, I think, was outstanding, especially in the second innings.
Darren, Joe Root, he's gone, isn't he? He just can't stop scoring runs.
Absolutely, and to echo what Raj says, it's not rocket science. It's guys like him, Malan, Hamid, and to a lesser extent Burns, if you ignore all the stuff that goes on before the ball is delivered. I think once the ball leaves the bowler's hand, he's quite conventional. But these are what I would call old-fashioned conventional Test match players. And and also the skill of Robinson and Anderson and Overton with the Dukes ball in our conditions was fantastic. But I think what we have got are two batting lineups who both as we've seen, they've both got collapses in them, which does make for very, very interesting and exciting Test cricket to watch.
Deep, where do you think India went wrong in that Test match? Because you've seen them in the two Tests before. They've played some pretty good cricket, very competitive cricket. Where did they go wrong at Headingley?
Well, the mindset, I guess. I mean, if you score 78, chances are very, very bleak for you to come back and win a Test match or even draw a Test match. Because, I mean, 78 and one and a half session, you're done with your first innings. So I think everything boils down to that session and a half. And some of the shots, starting from KL Rahul, to be honest, he's been absolutely superb right through this test series, apart from that shot. First over, Jimmy Anderson, cover drive. I mean, that's not something that KL's been doing in the series so far. And from there on, if you look at some of those shots, Rishabh Pant is a good example. Again, Virat, again, chasing a 7-stump delivery. So I don't know, maybe it's got to do with the mindset, because once you won that second test, maybe you wanted to be a little more aggressive, maybe a little more dominating. Raj mentioned about winning the toss and batting first. Personally, I thought it was always a bat first pitch, but I understand where Raj is coming from a very psychological point of view, where you've got somebody out cheaply 3 days or rather a week ago. But I thought that decision was also attacking and quite, I'd say, a good call, so to say, because that just tells you about the confidence that the team has in itself, the captain in the abilities of the batters. So maybe just this whole mindset, this positive mindset, maybe taking it a little too far, maybe in that process crossing the line and trying to play way too many shots. And not just that, also with the bowlers, I don't think India bowled well enough. 78, again, leave that 78 aside. But even apart from that, I thought Indian Ishant was very expensive. Siraj was off color again, I mean, in this test match. And then it boils down to Bumrah and Shami. And that becomes a little bit of a problem if the other two seam bowlers in these conditions aren't contributing enough. So that was, I think, all in all, those 2 days, the first 2 days were quite forgettable for India.
Raj, you were saying in the preview to this whole test series that it was going to be important for people like Virat Kohli to leave one of his strongest shots back in India. And, the one, he plays all over the world. There's the cover drive, but obviously in England, the moving ball at Headingley, cloud cover, you got to leave it where it came from. So what were your thoughts on seeing some of those dismissals from KL Rahul and people like Virat Kohli?
I think that that evening, that day when India batted in the second innings, where Pujara, Rohit and Virat, they batted really well and left very well. And the following morning, I think Pujara's wicket was the turnaround, because Pujara left till the time Pujara got out. Virat was also leaving. I think first 3 overs, they left a lot. But when Pujara got out, that ball came in and he didn't offer any shot and he got hit on the pads. After that over, Virat also started going at it. But till then, he also had been very disciplined, almost like 2018. And yes, that is one of the shots, this cover drive. I think we have discussed this in our podcasts before. In England, unless you get it right in your slot, it's very difficult to play this shot. You cannot play it on the up, and if the ball is moving, you think you've got it, you haven't covered it.
Yeah, Deep.
Let me just quickly add, the reason why Raj is saying that is a cover drive, you always hit it with half the bat. You don't hit a cover drive with the full face of the bat. And in England, especially in these conditions, the idea is to try and play with the full face of the bat as much as possible. The moment you start looking left of covers, or rather left of extra cover, or even mid off, that's when you start opening the face of the bat. And that's when you start showing the bowler half face of the bat. And that just opens up your chances of nicking one behind.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, actually. Darren, coming back to you again, what do you think England will be looking to take it into the Oval? Do you reckon they'll be looking to change anything or stick with that same team? There's obviously Josh Butler is no longer in that squad anymore due to his wife's having a baby. So what sort of changes do you reckon will be happening there?
Well, they've brought Billings in as keeper cover, but I don't think he'll play. I think they'll play Bairstow as keeper, put him down maybe at 6 or 7. I think they'll bring Pope in. Myself, I hope they do, because I think he's the most talented batsman of the group who's not playing. They've also brought Wokes in as well. So I don't know whether they're intending to leave Sam Curran out or whether they are going to rest Anderson, because Anderson generally doesn't play 3 or 4 tests on the trot, or hasn't done for a few years. Whether they'll keep Anderson in because this test is very, very important, obviously, I don't know. But I do expect to see both Wokes and Pope play in the next test, probably for Curran and for obviously Butler.
Coming back to you, Deep, seeing David Malan come back for his first test match, I want to say since 2018, when I think he was dropped actually in the England versus India series. How good did it look to watch a batsman that is batting properly, proper technique, and pretty orthodox, not unorthodox like maybe you say Dom Sibley is?
It is really good, because from the first test itself, I've been asking about, why not David Malan. Raj and myself, we've had a few chats right through this series so far. And I've asked him the same question, why not David Malan? Because obviously he's orthodox, that's one thing. I do understand he hasn't played a lot of red ball cricket in the last 6-8 months. I think a couple of them, and both of them are double 100 and 199, if I'm not wrong. But my point is more than just that. Within the last 2 years, when he was dropped from the test side 2018 versus India, he's played a lot of white ball cricket, and he's scored a lot of runs. So I thought after the Lord's Test, especially after the Lord's Test or during the Lord's Test, the biggest issue, listen, if you look at this England side, it's talented, it has potential, it has everything that you need. The only thing it was lacking, I guess, was lack of winning games and scoring runs, or rather scoring runs and winning games, because England hasn't really won a lot as far as red ball cricket is concerned of late, right? I think this test was the first home test win in last 7 games. So that's something that England is not used to, right? So that's one thing. What David Malan brings in is the experience, the winning attitude, because white ball cricket, England's been winning almost everything. So just get that winning attitude back into that dressing room. You bring in the experience, you bring in runs as well, even though those were in a different format, but end of the day, runs are runs. So you bring all that. Same with Moeen Ali. I mean, he's been brilliant in the 100. He's been scoring runs. His team's been winning. Again, he's a white ball cricketer to a great extent now. So you bring all that to that dressing room, because like winning, losing can also be a habit. If you lose out, I mean, if you have lost a few games, suddenly from winning situation, you forget how to win games, even from winning situations. So it's very, very important to have the right people in the dressing room, not just about the batting part of it or the bowling part of it, just the whole mentality, the winning mentality.
Raj, got anything to add to that?
No, I agree with that, and it's great to see people like Malan and Hamid, and obviously Root, Moeen Ali in the batting order. And but from an Indian point of view, see, Malan has always been good against seam bowling or quick bowling. So how will India counter this? And if there's going to be 3-4 left-handers in the England side, then I think there's a very strong case to play Ashwin, number 2, bowler in the world. And the way Ishant bowled in this game, it didn't look that he was at his best. And if you are going to play Jadeja can do the role of the holding bowler. So it would be, I think, a big psychological thing as well if we play Ashwin. So because there is quite a bit an aura about him, and with so many left-handers, and also considering what happened when Ashwin played for Surrey against Somerset in that county game he played, he got a 6 for. So I think to counter that, that would be quite a sensible move to play Ashwin at the Oval.
Deep, what were your thoughts on playing Ashwin in this upcoming test?
Well, I've been on about it for the last 2 tests now. I thought he should have played at Lord's. He should have played at at Lord's and at Headingley as well, because he's too good a bowler. Now the question is, who does he replace? And is it about Jadeja and Ashwin? You pick one. But as far as I see it, it is not between Jadeja and Ashwin. The question for Jadeja is Jadeja and Hanuma Vihari. You pick one of them to bat at number 7. So how I see Jadeja in these conditions is a batter who can bowl. So Ashwin, for me, definitely comes in without a shadow of doubt, and he replaces someone like Nishant. As Raj mentioned, he looked a little off color, out of rhythm in the last test match. So yeah, you get someone like Ashwin. And listen, I mean, the oval pitch generally is on the slower side, assists the spinners. And we are talking about Ravichandran Ashwin, 400 plus test wickets. What he also brings to the table is the longest tail that India has. I mean, somebody who's got, what, 500s, out of which, I mean, he got 100 as recent as February this year. Right, so someone like him coming in batting at number 8, that again is something that India might need.
Would you say Would you say his spot is under the threat, or would you say he's pretty, because of what he did in Australia? Is he doing? He's pretty safe.
It's difficult to say, because you know what, someone like Pant can be very frustrating because the way he gets out. But you also do have to keep in mind that he's a match winner. The day he gets runs, chances are you're going to win more often than not. But some of the things that he would want to keep in mind is the clarity of thought. I think for someone like him, it becomes even more important to figure out which ones to hit, which ones not to, which ones to let go. I don't mind him being aggressive and playing shots or stepping out or playing the reverse lap or whatever he wants to do. But for that to happen successfully and consistently enough, he needs clarity of thought. Because if you look at the way he's got out and the dismissals, he's played a lot of these half and half shots where it seems like he wanted to play a shot, then stopped himself, and a half-hearted shot. That's something that I don't think will help him in the long, or help anyone for that matter, but especially for someone like him, who can be as destructive as he can, and as he's been in the last year or so. Yeah, but you know, from a very coaching perspective, obviously Raj and all you guys are here, it's very important to have the right communication with him, because while you want him to be a little more watchful and aware of things and everything else, but you don't want to shackle him either. His strength is his shot making, his unpredictiveness with his bat. So you don't want to shackle him, but at the same time, you also want him to be aware and choose the right deliveries and be clear in his thought process. So that, from a coach's perspective, can be a little tricky.
Darren, coming away from India, Sam Curran, he's been under there's been a lot of talk in the media about him saying, should he be in the England side, should he not? Obviously, England suits him because he swings the ball much more obviously here than he does anywhere else. What are your thoughts on him playing in the next Test match?
Well, I think I alluded to it earlier. I'm a big fan of Chris Wokes, who I think is massively underrated by a lot of the media in this country, especially English media. And I don't think he is swinging it as much as he normally does. And he is, I mean, he's slower than Anderson, who's now 39, zipping it around. And I know he nicked Kohli off a couple of tests ago, but I'm not entirely sure what he brings to this England side. I think Wokes is a better bowler and will get at least the same amount of runs he gets, if not more.
Raj, Rory Burns, his technique, I'll go back to the word again, unorthodox, but actually, to be fair, on ball contact, he seems to look much better than someone like Dom Sidley did, would you say?
Yeah, you can't argue that. And the thing about Burns is he's quite gritty, and I think he knows his game. So that you have to give him. He doesn't try to go outside his own game plan, and he just sticks to it. Though it's not, the most pleasing to the eye, but obviously it works for him. So you can't do anything about it on that course. The other thing I wanted to say about the Indian bowling was, I think because we got out so cheaply in the first innings. We bowled a more Indian length because we were scared of getting hit and driven, and that allowed the England batsmen to settle down also, because in England obviously your length has to be a bit more up, which the English bowlers did a lot better. And with Sam Curran, I think the Indians had a bit of a respite with Sam Curran playing because of the number of balls he bowled on the pads to most of these guys to, get them on the way. So I would again agree 100% with Darren with the Chris Wokes selection.
Actually, Deep, speaking about bowling on the England bowlers bowling on the Indians' pads, they gave Pujara some freebies, which actually probably for Pujara's maybe the pressure on him, most probably that was on him, is now released a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the stars were aligned. I mean, he was batting on 14 in the first 13 deliveries that he played, and out of those 14, I think there were 3 boundaries off his pads. Yeah, I think, I mean, Jimmy Anderson looked a little off color that spell when he came into bowl. Just after lunch, I think he was trying, I mean, he got a little greedy, trying to get the ball to swing away from the stumps, and obviously it held its line. But yeah, I mean, the only so-called positive, so to say, as far as India is concerned from the last test match would be Pujara's form, because not just the fact that he got 91, scored some runs, but also the way he batted. He looked a lot more fluent. He was playing a lot more shots. He pulled, he cut. There was a back foot punch as well. There were cover drives. So even though, I mean, if you look at the strike rate, it's not massively different from what's been of late. But the fact that he looked a lot more comfortable, a lot more proactive in his stroke making, that's good to see. So yeah, that's the only so-called positive if India can take away from that game.
Raj, what were your thoughts on Pujara's innings?
I agree with what Deep said, but I feel personally he is still not batting the way he came on the scene, because if you see, there were a lot of balls which when he started, if he got those balls on the pads, he would have hit that between wideish mid on mid wicket, and those balls were going behind square because his bat face on contact is closing massively, and on the offside he's literally forcing it. And if you compare that to the innings Rohit played and the way his bat face comes on the ball, it's outstanding.
Yeah, Deep.
Sorry, Raj. I mean, obviously, because the coaches here, and this is a question, or rather an opinion. I want your opinions on that as well. Is maybe because we've had this discussion, Raj and I, he's holding the bat lot firmly now, because last year or so, I mean, he would hold his bat very loosely, Pujara, and he's predominantly a bottom-handed batsman. So maybe is that the reason it's closing a lot earlier at the point of impact, or it's going squarer than he wants to, because he's trying to hold it a lot more firmly, Raj, and Darren, would you reckon?
I would say so. Sorry. Yeah, I would say so, yes. But is that not just a natural reaction to the fact he is searching for runs, and it's a natural grip it a little bit harder because I need to score. I don't know. You guys have seen more than him than I have, but that's what I would say. Yeah.
I think personally, it seems to me that he knows that also, because every ball he checks his grip, and when he goes on the tap, his bat starts fine, but it is on the third tap, it looks that the bat just points in, tilts in a bit, and then when it is picked up, it doesn't go full face. Like someone like Virat or Rohit, or when they are picking it up. In fact, Jadeja also fantastic bat face on the ball, right? But with Pujara, it is almost always hitting the inner half of the bat. And there was, I think, one back foot punch he hit, and that he literally powered it. But if you go back 4 5 years ago, that ball he could have easily eased through, and that he had to force through point and square cover, and that was mainly because of his bottom hand. Then there was another drive he played to mid off, which he would have timed it much better, and that was stopped at mid off. I think it was Anderson diving or someone. So mentally, I'll give 100 on 100 to this guy, the way he battled. But on a technical front, I think he also knows that he's got a bit of work to do.
Darren, coming a bit away from this series now, the future of Test cricket. We've seen 3 Test matches now, which have been, to watch, have been amazing. I understand as England fans going to that Lord's Test match, it wasn't very nice to watch, but it was close. And I think this is what people aren't understanding: that yes, T20 can be close and the 100 can be close, but actually Test match cricket can be close as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially not necessarily this test, but the previous test swung 4 or 5 different directions before it came to a final result. Whereas India bossed day one, then England bossed the next 3 days, and then on the last day, obviously it just went crazy in the morning with Bumrah and Shami, and then the wickets at the end. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the 100, I think the 100 is something that's steered towards non-cricket fans, if you like. They're trying to get in fans who don't watch cricket now. Whereas it's almost a swear word, but the purist Test cricket fan, like I think we all are almost looked down a little bit by the ECB sometimes. And but I think as long as Test cricket is strong in Australia, India, and in England, which I think it is, it'll be fine.
Do you got anything to add to that?
Well, I think if you look at the health of Test cricket, I think it's quite robust right now as compared to how it was in the last 5-7 years. You're getting more entertaining Test matches. I do understand the last one finished in 3.5 days, but those 3.5 days were entertaining. I think some of it has got to do with, obviously, I mean, a lot of it has got to do with the introduction of T20 cricket and 100 now. See, the idea is I have absolutely no problems with the shorter format. In fact, I love shorter format, including the 100. Because the idea is with T20 and 100, you're trying to get new viewership in. And if you can convert even 1 or 2% of that new viewership that's coming in into Test match cricket, I think the job's done. And I mean, listen, this whole summer, I was watching the World Test Championship before the India, New Zealand, all the Test matches, and it was house full. There was not one day where I could see a stand which was empty. So not just going by general perception, but just going by the facts that I've seen over this English summer, and even whatever little I've seen all over the world, the attendance is absolutely superb, and that might just give you some indication how Test match cricket is doing.
Raj, anything to add on to that?
No, I mean, a Test match cricket is such that as long as the sides are more or less equal, then Test cricket will always be entertaining. When you have a top side playing a minnow, that becomes, it is not very watchable. And what you will find is in the longer format, the favorite team will win in most cases. It's very rarely that you'll have an upset. But in the shorter format, anyone can win. Minnow side can pull out a win against a champion side also, and that's the reason I think a lot of people want more of the shorter format. But Test cricket as such is the ultimate. How is a player judged? How is a player remembered? And to be honest, yes, T20 is entertaining and all the rest of it, but it is very predictable at the same time. With Test match cricket, you have, it is a complete different scenario. And the entertainment or the thrill you get from this is almost like, having a very expensive whiskey to cheap beer. You can get drunk on both, but which one would you like to get drunk on?
Yeah, Raj can afford that. We can't. So I don't know about that, Raj.
Depends if you're buying it, Raj.
Deep, I think we'll just quickly come to your career.
Yeah.
Obviously, you played for India. You played 8 Test matches and 5 ODIs, and also scored 100 against England. How good is that to represent a country of so many people that want to play cricket for India?
Well, obviously that's an achievement. If you think about the fact that in the last 8 years, ever since cricket or Test match cricket, or India started playing cricket for that matter, there's only 300 people who've played Test match cricket. 300 players, that's it. So it's just an extremely, extremely proud thing for me, having played Test match cricket for India. Obviously, 100 again is as valuable as anything else. So I've got 2 achievements in my life, as I say, or 2 blessings in my life, and I've got both of them tattooed, my kids and my family, and then my test number. So that's how important these 2 things are to me.
Raj, obviously you play Ranji Trophy. That is also obviously the second highest thing in India that you can play. That is, that's an achievement as well, isn't it?
I think I was lucky to be able to play in the Ranji Trophy because there are so many players who are quality in India, and to be able to represent, as Deep said, and there are 300 first-class players in India in 1 year. So having been given that opportunity, I think it was a massive thing for me, and I'm thankful to God for that.
Right, well, Darren, we will not be given the opportunity to play Ranji Trophy, but you never know. In our next life, we might be given the opportunity, so you don't know.
Plus, yeah, we can skirt past my international career quite quickly.
Right then, I think we will finish that there. Deep, thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing hearing your thoughts on what is going to be a very good Test series, and it's going to be quite a close finish. So thank you guys, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for listening.